that connection that you can have with another human being is among the most fundamental and most powerful things that you can do as a writer. And I still wonder who this child is, and I'm hoping that he has gone on to discover writers, thousands of times better than me, but really appreciated what's out there. Because when you put a book in someone's hands, you're opening up, worlds to them.
You are now listening to the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer and author of the best-selling book, Stay the Course, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some goodies today from the guest that's up next. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as the Going North podcast, we got another special author, baby, from the Creative Edge Publicity crew, baby, the CEP, baby. And I'm going to put a C at the end of that CEP because I'm going to call them a crew because they are a crew. Not a crew t-shirt, though. But speaking of crew t-shirts, but not speaking of crew t-shirts, we got another fabulous human today, folks. My man, an editor, professional speaker, and a book nerd with a passion for craft beer, who's been publishing for more than 25 years, folks, more than 25 years. So my man's got all the quarters in the world, folks. So let's give it up for the fabulous ML himself, Mr. Mark Leslie. How you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing awesome, Don. Thanks for having me here. It's great to chat with you.
Yes, indeed. Great to chat with you too, my man. Like, my man's got freaking all the experience, man. Like, my man's been killing the game, baby.
Been toiling in the fields for quite a while, and I tell you, I have amassed thousands of rejections over those years. Not just from publishers, but from all kinds of ladies too.
Well, hey, it sounds like it's okay. It's okay. The rejections turn into yeses eventually.
Sometimes they do. That's right.
But hey, it's all good. It's all good. So my goodness, like the most interesting thing I found out about you from the beginning is the fact that my man is actually can't believe it. At least as a joking way, is that my man is still afraid of the boogeyman in your early 50s, yet you write thriller novels.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true. I mean, I think it's part of one of the reasons I was attracted to write about dark things, was because everywhere I look, I see monsters and scary things. So, and I am actually afraid of the dark, to be quite honest with you. So that actually helps make sure that when I'm writing the thrillers and the true ghost story stuff, that it's coming from a pretty authentic place.
Oh my goodness. That's what I'm talking about, Dave. And that's like the biggest thing nowadays with the word authenticity. It's like, hey, you gotta be authentic. Well, it's like, well, I'm still afraid of the boogeyman, so yeah, I'll write thrillers.
I'm kind of scared of what might happen. Let's write about it.
Oh man. Well, that's a freaking ride, man. Definitely love it too. So my goodness, that's actually one great way of turning like your I wouldn't say it, I wouldn't call it pain, but basically just call it one of your fears into like I guess fears into fun. That's probably a good way to put it.
Fears into fun. Hey, that could be a tagline. Thanks. I might change some of that. I used to have chills and thrills, but I think I'll go with yeah, fear into fun. But I mean, when you think about it, one of the most common advice that people always give writers is write what you know. And I know I'm afraid of a lot of things, and I know I wonder what if. A lot of my imagination comes from, well, what if this instead of that, and that's a lot of speculative fiction. What if there was a monster under the bed? What would it look like? What kind of monster would it be? Or what if, what if you were a man who was inflicted with a werewolf curse, and you lived in one of the world's largest cities of New York? Where would you go to run around as a wolf at night? Like how would you deal with the side effects? That's where a lot of the writing comes from. What if ghosts are real and they haunt this building? What is it that people are experiencing? So much of my writing has always been that what if. And that wondering is what I do anyways. So I may as well, maybe it's therapy, a therapeutic thing, but I put those questions onto paper and I try to answer them. And sometimes people actually like them and read them. Sometimes they pay me for the stuff I make up.
Sometimes I pay for the stuff I make up. That's a good one, Lauder. That's right. The life of a writer. It's like, hey, I write stuff. I made it up. Oh, here's some money. Oh, for real? Yes. All right.
But I just made it up.
Like, I'll take it. Authentic fantasy.
That's right. Yeah, but again, that's how it can be a fictional world, but it can be real. I mean, a lot of there's some really great science fiction writers that often define, the speculative the science fiction or whatever is a mirror held up to reality. Because when you think about a TV show like Black Mirror, for example, and it's like this weird sort of convolution of when science is just a little bit more advanced than it is now, and what if everything was recorded, like every you could play things back, or all of these weird speculations. And what it really is it's just a look at us, but we've separated from ourselves enough that we can actually see us with a little bit of a better perspective. You go to Star Trek and they land on a planet where the culture does something that's probably the same sort of thing that's done in North American culture, but it's just twisted a little bit. And because it's a different planet and a different species, we can kind of look at them with a cold and a more critical eye, and then realize, oh my God, we're just looking at something really odd that we do, or a tradition that we uphold that it makes no sense whatsoever. And I think a lot of speculative fiction is useful in that way. So we're really just talking about ourselves, and in a way that maybe is a little bit more acceptable and potentially less threatening.
Heck yeah, I can say that again. And the beautiful thing about this is that a lot of the folks who write fiction, they've been writing for all their life. So you've been writing since you were 13, so multiple decades of knowledge. So what's probably the two greatest gifts you gained from being able to not only write but also publish your work?
I think the biggest gift that a writer can ever experience is the knowledge that somebody has picked up that piece of writing that they've done, and it has moved them, it has inspired them, it has entertained them in some way. And you put out a lot of work, and you sell a lot of books, but you don't always hear back. I mean, you're not going to hear back from everyone, right? It's not like if you're a performer on stage doing a live performance, you can see the reaction of the audience. Nobody's gonna is like stand there and listen to me read an entire book, because it's a very personal experience. I've personally written something, and then at any point in time someone else picks up that book, and it's their book, it's their experience. But every once in a while, somebody who's read some of my, well, they may leave a review on an online website or Goodreads or something, but every once in a while they'll reach out to me. And I think one of the highlights of my career was when I had done a science fiction story. It was meant to be read in a grade 4 classroom, and it was based on the grade 4 science curriculum. And the idea was these science fiction stories based on science that was going to be taught at that grade, so that the science teacher could use it as a way to introduce a concept. And I was so thrilled to be involved in a project like that, where you pick up a grade 4 textbook and you understand, okay, this is what they're learning. I'm going to write a story that involves that. And I got a letter through the publisher from a teacher who said there was a boy in her class that was a reluctant reader. He had never finished a story on his own. Like, they would kind of try and get, like, force him to read, but he just wasn't into it. And my story that I wrote for that anthology was the first story he ever finished, and he was so excited that he drew a sketch of my main characters and the action, and then he wrote a sequel to it because he loved it so much, and turned him into a reader. So that boy may never even remember who I was, or have not gone on to read. He's probably 30 now, but he may have never picked up another piece of my writing, because he probably most likely has no idea who I am or what I did. But if I, with that story, helped turn this little boy into a reader, I have done something truly remarkable, because I allowed him to discover the multitude of worlds and experiences and joys and wonders that can come with the love and passion of reading. And I was thinking, wow, if I never do another thing good as a writer again, I turn one little boy into a reader. And that to me, that's the kind of thing that I think is magic. And when I think about like what are some of my greatest accomplishments? Well, okay, I hit this bestseller list, or I sold this many thousands of books, or I was sitting in front of a skid of my books at Costco and I was watching it the sale, watching it go down. I've been nominated for this award, or any of those things. But I think that connection that you can have with another human being is among the most fundamental and most powerful things that you can do as a writer. And I still wonder who this child is, and I'm hoping that he has gone on to discover writers, thousands of times better than me, but really appreciated what's out there. Because when you put a book in someone's hands, you're opening up, worlds to them.
Heck yeah, I can say that again, and that's definitely powerful, and that's one heck of a great story right there. Because it's so darn true. It's like just little things like that. It's like helping one little boy really just fall in love with reading, and to be able to be the author who helped him finish his first story. Like that's freaking amazing, and it's probably one of the best things ever.
Yeah, it is. It's so I always think about those wins are minuscule victories, but they're magnificent in terms of what it can do. When again, when you realize that you can help open up someone's mind, heart, and soul to something, that's pretty cool. I'll take it.
There you go. That's right. Then one day they may become that writer too. And then out of
Yeah.
nowhere, you both end up at the same writers' conference. It's like, hey, there's a story by Mark Leslie. Like, hey, I'm Mark Leslie.
I know him.
Like, hey, kid, that's me. He just brought us together to say that you are the man. Oh, man. I would also love a batch is that not only you're a writer, you're also a fellow writer. So my man's got some book casting swag going on where you have this awesome podcast where not only you're dropping some good content that a lot of writers need to consider, but also interviewing other folks in the field, whether it's a young adult services librarian, a fellow author, heck, even some other people in the field. So what inspired you to start a podcast and keep it going? Because a man's 180 plus episodes in, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I had been on numerous podcasts over the years as a representative of publishing and writing in the book industry and self-publishing. And when I left the corporate world at the end of 2017, I had been hosting the Kobo Writing Life podcast, which has been going for what, 8 years now, and I missed it. I missed the excuse to talk to really smart people and learn and continue to learn. So I released the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing because I was kind of frustrated that there were two kinds of podcasts out there. There were podcasts coming from traditional publishing that only looked at what traditional publishing was doing, like the big New York publishing. And then there were indie author or self-publishing podcasts that were only looking at self-publishing. And I had grown
Ah,
up with one foot on either side, fully embracing both. And I was frustrated that nobody really took the time to demonstrate that it's not the divisiveness, it's the inclusivity of considering all your options as a creative person. And so I've used the podcast sort of as my little soapbox to express the importance of listening to everyone in the industry. And I'd like to do things where I've interviewed not non-writers. I've interviewed people involved in music, musicians, songwriters, cartoonists, artists, because I think it's really important to me that as a writer, you're not just learning from other writers, and you're not just learning from your own silo of the same people doing the same thing all the time. You're learning from all the people from all different walks of writing and creativity, because you can learn from every single person. I think one of the biggest lessons that I've taken for myself as a writer, and I want to endow other writers with, is something I borrowed from Michael Connolly's Harry Bosch character. He's a detective, and Harry Bosch says that when he investigates a murder, everybody counts or nobody counts. And the way I look at it is, even if I'm on stage in front of 600 writers and I'm there because I'm the keynote speaker and they're there to hear me and learn from me, that my belief is that there's not a single person in that room that I can't learn something valuable from. And if I ever lose sight of that, I've lost all my sight in many, many ways, because I can always learn something from someone. It doesn't matter if they haven't written a book yet, or that they're just thinking about it, or that they're, a New York Times bestselling author. Each and every one of them has valuable experience that I can learn from. And that's one of the reasons why I love the podcast, because every single guest that I bring on, I'm learning so much from, and hopefully my listeners are also benefiting in that same way.
My man Mark is bringing the heat, baby. The mighty Mark, baby. The Eminem, baby. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Always having the spirit to learn. Like we said there, you missed that excuse of talking to smart people. That is freaking gold. I'm about to steal that one.
Now I call it, it's you're just liberating it. You're liberating the phrase. That's what you're doing.
Yay, it's free. But still buy his books though.
Attribution, baby, attribution. Don't forget the attribution. As my good friend Mark Leslie says.
That's right. Say it 3 times, then it's mine. Oh my goodness. Well, since you've been on so many podcasts over the years, hosting one of your own and basically a veteran in this space who gives folks some advice on the stuff that folks need to pay attention to besides just focusing all your efforts on Amazon, was there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often?
Yeah, that's a great question. In terms of writing and publishing, I think I get frustrated is that a lot of the questions that authors ask are kind of leading questions in the hopes that I'm going to share a magic bullet with them. Oh, you only have to do this one thing and then everything will be okay. And I think I prefer the questions that automatically intuit the fact that I'm not going to give you a prescripted step by step, because you're going to find the way that works best for you. And that is going to be unique to you. And it's going to be unique for every single project you put out as a writer, a short story, a novel, a memoir, any whatever it is. Each individual project has its own unique path that's going to be dependent upon so many factors that I can't possibly know. And so I would rather we focus on mindset and learning and understanding, so that you can take that understanding and that knowledge and then readapt it for your own needs. So I like to equate one of the most frustrating things that I see happening, particularly a lot of it happens in the self-publishing sphere, is I equate it to a bunch of kids, 10-year-old boys playing soccer. Now, in soccer, there's positions you're supposed to play. But what normally happens is all you see is one kid has the ball and they're kicking the ball down the field, and the entire pack of kids are just chasing them all the way across to the left of the field, all the way across the right. Nobody's playing their position. They're all just chasing after the one kid with the ball. The one kid with the ball is having a blast. And that tends to be in self-publishing. The one person who tried something, a miracle happened, and suddenly they're, well, I sold 100,000 books by making my book 99 cents. And then everyone goes and does the exact same thing that kid does, because they're chasing after him and his ball. As opposed to, if I take this back as a Canadian, if I take this back to Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player of ever, and I talk about the fact that he always skated to where the puck was going to be. He didn't follow the puck. He went to where he knew the puck was going to be. And I want authors to skate to where their puck's going to be, not to be chasing the one kid with the ball, right? Because that's done. That's done. That thing is over. That miracle happened. You need to find your own, because, as my good friend Kevin J. Anderson says, a lot of success has to do with planting a lot of lightning rods, and you plant a ton of them, and it's going to strike. It's going to strike here and it's going to strike there, but you don't know where it's going to strike. And the harder I work, as Kevin says, the harder I work, the luckier I get in terms of success. And so that's what I kind of want. I want to answer the questions that help authors understand that.
Hey, well, that's definitely great. And you're so right about that. The whole 99 cents thing, like everybody's doing it almost, it seems like. Heck, even I'm guilty of it. Like in my
We all
second.
are. But again, it's one tactic that can work. I've got a book right now that's 99 cents, and it's working quite well for me because it's leading to other books. If it was just that one book, it probably would be a bit of a dud because I've given up most of my margin. Right, I'm giving somebody 8 hours of pleasure for a dollar. That's pretty remarkable. Yeah. So, but it's a tactic. It's not a long-term strategy.
8 hours of pleasure for a dollar. There you go. Some good old reading pleasure. Heck, maybe even listening pleasure too.
Yeah, for sure.
So since my man mentioned mindset, what's kept you headstrong with all these decades with your writing and always continuously learning and growing with your business as well?
Well, I mean, as I said earlier, I'm always wondering what if, and I'm always exploring, and most of those ideas come out on paper. And I think the thing that's kept me going is, I think because I've experienced the power of what writing can do as a reader from my earliest days, from when my mom read to me, from when she would bring home Spider-Man comic books every Tuesday. From they would come out, the new comic books would come out every Tuesday, and my mom would buy them and bring them home at the end of the workday, and I gobbled them up, and I couldn't wait to find out what happened next, like the serialized nature of it. And I loved how these people who never existed could make me laugh, could make me cry, could make me feel fear, could make me feel happy. And that power of understanding how a writer like Stan Lee, for example, who created Spider-Man and inspired so much of me in this geeky little this geeky little nerd teenager who could help other people, who still had something that he could use to help the world. And so thinking about the power that one writer could have on millions of people potentially, or as I mentioned, just one other person, that's what drives me to keep going. That's in the face of 1-star reviews and crickets. The book launch, and all you get is crickets, and all of those things that can happen is like, hey, I posted about my new book and nobody looked at it, but I posted that my hemorrhoids were itchy today, and like everyone, I got 1,000 comments. Like, that happens all the time. But the thing that drives me forward is preparation H. No, the thing that drives me forward is that potential that I'm going to connect with the right person, and that I'm going to make a difference, and I'm going to inspire them. I'm going to entertain them. I'm going to inform them. And that's why I keep doing it. Well, I think I have to do it. I have no choice but to do it. Fortunately, as I said, every once in a while, somebody's willing to either invest a bit of money or a bit of time in listening to those crazy things that I have to say.
Heck yeah. And that crazy thing will help them make the smartest decisions of their lives.
I'm hoping, yeah.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. And that is, if you're to wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but this time in the current year of 2021, with all of your amassed knowledge and wisdom, what advice would you give to yourself?
Wow. I think I would advise myself, based on my experiences and my understanding, that the rug can be pulled out from under where you are at whatever point, for whatever reason, that the path that you imagine, I think it goes back to an old Yiddish saying that men plan and God laughs. Um, and I think about that, and I will go to one of my favorite movies of all time, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Del Griffin, when he's talking about going with the flow, like a twig on the shoulders of a mighty stream. And I realized that things are going to happen, and they're not going to be the things you planned, and they're not going to be the things that you expected. But provided that you're willing to learn, that you're willing to listen, and you're willing to try to adapt, you're going to be okay. And things may end up turning out for the better, even when things don't look good. Because there are plenty of times, if I look back on the past 25 plus years, there were plenty of times where I was like, "Oh no, that's it. I'm done. I don't know where to go from here." And you're like, and that happens to everyone at some point in time where things change, and you're like, "Wow, I never thought that would happen." But it does, and you're often, what was it, the Winnie Pooh advice, Winnie the Pooh? You're stronger than you believe. You're more powerful than you imagine. That kind of thing. I think those are the kinds of things I would tell myself.
Yes, indeed. My man leaving listeners with a tennis bracelet of wisdom, baby. That's what I'm talking about. That's right. All these jewels, baby. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's right, indeed. And my man probably only shared 1% of all of his knowledge, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Maybe even close to 1%. It's like maybe 0.5. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So for those who want to dive into more and hopefully get to like 50 or 75% and buy multiple copies of all your books, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you and keep up with what you're doing?
Best way to find me, through all social media platforms. All my links are at markleslie.ca.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. Head over to markleslie.ca, baby. And that ain't California. That's for the great country of Canada, baby. All the maple leaf muscles and the great writers, baby. The great creative writers who have a creative edge. Yeah. Yep, I couldn't resist that corniness. Well, anyway.
How could you? Nobody can blame you for that.
Yeah, I was like, it's just right in front of me. It's like it was like nice maple syrup on a pancake. I couldn't resist.
Canadian maple syrup, I hope.
In this case, yes.
Like New England is a second one if you want to stick to the US.
Definitely some sticking going on. It is sticky. So any parting words before we close up shop?
No, just keep dreaming.
This is your host, Don Brightman. Hope you enjoyed what you just heard. And if you really did, do me a solid and leave a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, wherever you're listening to. And subscribe to hear more because more is coming your way to advance you further than before.